Now that I've sent the email out and people should be tuning in, oh, I have to open up our chat so we can see if anybody chats us. Where is that? I can't see. We're too far away. I'm blind. Chat. Oh, Josh says,
people
hello.
Are okay.
And Letter of Mine says, I made it. Okay, good. That's too far away. That's going to be a problem.
Well, I want to know, for anybody in the comments, where do you like to have your camera monitor or your camera? Do you like to have it propped up?
Are you upside?
What angle, do you have it kind of looking up at you? Do you like having it looking down at you? Do you like it?
I know, because this is definitely looking out like you can see the back of this camera looking at us. So I feel like we can play with it, and I think it depends also on how tall you are, because I'm short.
Yeah, and I'm actually I'm taller than people think. So
you stand up and you go, oh, hi.
Yeah, like I have a standing desk. I don't think people realize that. And I have like a standing chair too. And so I have my desk actually at a really tall height.
I have a standing desk too. I freaking love it.
Yeah, but this one's not, is it?
Yeah, it's the black part.
Oh, you have the desk thing where oh, I like that.
I know. I brought that from home. So I was like, wait a second. Why do I have it at home and I'd be spending 95% of my time here?
That's right.
So anyway, for those of you that are tuning in for the masterclass, thank you so much. You're live across so many different platforms. So many. All of Jocelyn's, most of BRP's, except for a couple. Fun facts I learned you have to put in on TikTok and YouTube 24 hours earlier if you want to be able to go live. We can try that again later. It'll be good to go after this. I didn't know that because we hit all the markers for it to like make it available for you to go live, but it didn't hit. Like, I guess I had to request.
Interesting.
You learn new things. But this program is going to be now in my subscription Substack because that's nice. And I use OBS to record stuff like in Office, like if I'm just recording statically, open broadcast software. But so that's just like static, and you can do multiple mics. So I've got my second mic over there. I've got another camera, so you can do like multiple angles and stuff. Which maybe someday I'll get good enough to be able to do that all while talking. But I can't do that right now. It's too hard.
Well, Jocelyn's a media mogul. I didn't know all this stuff, so I'm learning right now.
I'd be content queen over here.
A lot of
yeah. With that, thank you for tuning in. I can't see how many viewers. Can you see?
No.
Yep, can't see it. Okay. So if you've been asking a question, selling, and a lot of our businesses going through the cohort are starting to ask that question. We went over sales funnels today and putting things at the top, and sometimes comes out the bottom. We've got to figure out why. So if you sold to every single person you know, would you still be broke? I mean, that's really the question about market size, right?
Yeah. So today, I think we're talking about market sizes, and what I want to share with you today through this is how we think about it. And there's a very simple mathematical way to think about market sizes that I wish I learned in school, but I didn't.
Yeah, and that was not in business class.
I mean, I went to Iowa State, I studied business management. It was a great education, but I just didn't learn, like when you say, hey, my market size is this, I always wondered how they derived that answer. And just some background on me, and then we'll kind of get into market sizes. My name's Mason. I'm the managing director of Mastercraft Ventures. Mastercraft is a early stage venture capital fund. We invest primarily in scalable, early startups. We usually roll up our sleeves and write a $400,000 to $500,000 check into startups that are kind of in their idea phase. Maybe they have an idea but don't have revenue. Maybe they have an idea and they're starting to build a prototype, but they're not yet generating, let's say, $1 million of revenue. That's a different investor. But we kind of lean in at that earliest phase. And so market sizes, all else being equal, you have this idea. How do we know if it's scalable? So we look at market sizes quite a bit. So going back to your question, if I sold to everybody who could buy my product, would I still be broke? That answer is, it depends. It depends on how large that market is, because your market size really is the limiting factor to how large your company could be. The mathematical equation behind that is pretty simple. How many customers there are multiplied by how much revenue they generate in an annual basis equals your market size. X times Y equals Z. The amount of customers you have, how much you charge equals your market size. So simply put, if there's not that many customers, or you don't charge much, or you charge nothing, even if you sold or brought on every customer from your target audience as a user, as a customer, you might still be broke. So we can kind of talk about those levers, but that's the short of it.
I like it. And so just so everybody knows, I have known Mason for going on 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
Long time.
We're actually neighbors.
It's my favorite thing. It's actually my favorite thing about Mason, that he's my neighbor, because every now and then, I'll just tell the story because it's funny. Every now and then he's out there mowing his lawn, do headphones in, and I drive past with my car and I beep the horn, and this man jumps every time. It's the best.
She really sneaks up on it.
I really love it. It really does make my day. I know it scares the shit out of you, but it makes my day.
And by the time I get my composure and wave at you, you're already blocked.
I'm already gone. But you know it's this neighbor that's doing it to you, because none of the other neighbors would do that to you ever.
It's true.
I've known him for years. I went through your G Alpha program back when you were doing G Alpha, and G Alpha is like the BRP idea to first dollar cohort.
Yeah.
Different, but same. And so it's kind of where that my idea for BRP started percolating of like, hey, I could do this for local businesses, for businesses that were more mom and pop, more everyday businesses, not like these amazing, hopefully someday unicorn ideas.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, we like to say, hey, this program's for the majority of business owners rather than the small subset that's crazy enough to being a business owner. You have to be kind of a certain level of crazy,
yeah.
But to build a software business, you have to be an extra level of crazy.
Thanks, Mason. Thanks.
Hey, it's true. And those people, they wouldn't do anything else.
No, I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't. Okay, we have some questions that people have asked, and then we have some slides. So just so you know, if you're watching, we might go back and forth between visual slides. You'll still be able to see our beautiful faces, don't worry. And some questions. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
If we can figure out how to actually do that.
No,
I think we can do it.
I got this. I tested this program for an hour and a half this afternoon. So we had our lunch and learn for BRP today, and then I was testing the program since then. So I think I got it. Okay. So this is one of my pet peeves. So this question is for me originally, but you're talking to a business owner and you're like, okay, well, like, who's your market, or how big is your market, or whatever. And they're like, my market is huge. And you go, oh no. What do you actually need to hear to believe them versus like, my market is huge?
Yeah. It's pretty common, right, to talk to an entrepreneur, and sometimes entrepreneurs can be a bit pie in the sky.
Just a little,
right?
Like just
and part of that comes with the territory. I mean, to be a successful entrepreneur, you essentially have to live in a future that doesn't yet exist, and you're building that future. Mm-hmm. And so when you say your market's huge, or when an entrepreneur says your market's huge, you have to kind of understand what that means. First of all, how do you qualify huge? What does huge mean to you? What does huge mean to me? And that might be a different number, but to qualify that or to dig deeper, you'd start to ask, well, who is in your market? Who's your ideal customer? Who are you selling to? You should be able to answer and be very specific about the customer that you're selling to. And that dictates a lot of your market. A lot of times I'll meet with entrepreneurs who maybe overstate the size of their market because they include things that aren't actually relevant to their business. I'll give a silly example of that. Let's think of, I was talking the other day to a company making software in the media space. Now you might hear media. We've been talking media here. And hey, TikTok's huge.
You could do some big things there.
Yeah, media is huge.
Huge market. Huge market size.
But what sector of that market were they actually dealing with? And what's interesting is they were actually kind of dealing with the independent newspaper companies. And I hate to say it, that's a dying business.
That's a small market size.
It's a small market. It was large, but it's a small market and it's dying. And so when you say your market's huge, well, yeah, the media market's huge. But when you kind of dig in and say, who do you sell to? Who's your customer? It's like they're taking a whole market that's not actually relevant to the size of their business's market size and maybe overinflating that number. When the reality is you dig into that and you say, well, this market that you're in, where you're playing, number one, it's decreasing, it's getting smaller in size, it's dwindling, and it's not reflective of everything else in that market. And so those are some of the things that are worth digging into, at least initially.
I love that. I think people forget that when you start to niche, the market actually changes. They just think, oh, dog trainers. And you're like, yeah. But like when you start to actually point out what term, it changes the number. I love that. That's a really good example. Okay, so I got more questions. And this kind of follows along is, you have a big idea, right? And a lot of people come to you with big ideas. For me, a little bit less big ideas, lifestyle type ideas, right? But they come with a big idea. And what's the difference between a big idea and a big market then?
Yeah. Well, again, I think a lot of times big ideas in big markets are synonymous.
Yeah.
The bigger the idea, conceptually, the bigger the market. But again, drilling down into where that niche is and where you're going to play inside of the market maybe dictates how you go to market. When you think about the equation from the beginning, X times Y equals Z, the amount of customers you can sell to multiplied by the revenue each customer generates creates your market size. Big ideas might have to start with a small subset of customers. You might have to delight those customers first, or come in with a very minimal entry-level pricing model or revenue model that you could get a lot of customers with, and then expand the revenue model. So those are some of the levers, right? If you want to increase your market size, you increase the amount of customers you have, and you increase how much you can charge. And those are really the levers you have to increase or decrease your market size. But for a lot of lifestyle businesses, right? Like dog walkers, I could say my market is dog walkers across the country,
right? But
we're in Janesville, Wisconsin. I think it's disingenuous to say, hey, my market is dog walking all across the country. If you're just focused on dog owners
or Southern Wisconsin,
a town of 60,000 is not the same as the entire U.S. market of dog walkers or pets. Right? And so again, like big ideas, like, hey, we want to revolutionize dog walking. Cool. But to start, we're going to start here, build out this software. Maybe we're going to franchise, and that changes how we think about the market or how we attack it. Maybe that changes your revenue model. Maybe we think about some sort of technology or app or marketplace to get into dog walking. Maybe you're just like, as a corporation, just we're not franchising, we're not doing an app. We're just like building our headquarters and like having people, like contracted employees in every city across the country. And it all changes how your market is. And I have a slide on this. It might be worth pulling up. Yeah, let's see if we can pull up our slides. So let's go to the next slide, and then the next slide, and then the next slide, and then the next slide.
We could have dropped out of probably.
And then one more slide.
Boom. That's the math.
I don't even remember what other slides I have. What's the next slide?
Market potential?
All right, go back 2 slides. This slide.
This market band. And while you're explaining, I'm actually going to plug in my computer. Boom! Look at that. So you explain that, and I'm going to plug this in.
Okay, this is really embarrassing. I completely forgot why I even wanted to bring up the slides. What were we talking about?
You're talking about market size. Market size and sizing, dog walkers, Janesville, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Is this helping you?
Yep, it absolutely does. And ruh-roh.
Everything turned on. Jesus Christ. Well, music's played.
Are we still on?
I don't know. I think so. But our videos are gone. Give it a second. She'll come back. Come on, video. You can do it. There we go. See, I told you to come back.
I think we're back. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we just got to turn the light back on. My bad, guys.
So when you think about big ideas equaling big markets, you also have to think about what a market is. And I would define, this is loose terms. You can litigate. That's fine. But just in very simple terms, your market's a subsect of these 3 things: who you sell to, where you sell, and why the customer buys. And so again, like expanding the geography or the industries you're in, or understanding the psychology of why people buy and what they're looking for as a way to expand your offering, all impacts that market. So we could probably go to the next question, but I think that's a basis point.
I was just checking to make sure that people can hear. So if you're still live, which we are, which is good, making sure that everyone can still hear us through said microphone. Anyway, next question. I'm the question holder. Okay, so I know I can tell pretty quickly, but when somebody comes up to you, and how quickly can you tell if someone has done like real market research versus they're guessing those numbers, right? So as we start talking about like these numbers, your different sizes up market, how can you kind of tell?
Yeah, I want to go to, well, we don't need the slides. I think the short of this is there's a couple of different ways you can kind of size your market. And a couple of questions can kind of get to the heart of whether or not you've sharpened your pencil. The reality is if you're coming to an investor and you want $500,000, you're going to have a pretty sharp pencil. The other reality is if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you're going to have a pretty sharp pencil. What I mean by that is you've done your homework. You've done the work that says, hey, I know what I'm doing. You can be wrong, but like you have an idea of what you're doing. You're going after, you're attacking it. So in short, somebody says, hey, I have a big market, or they come to me and they're talking about their market. I like to start asking questions about defining who the customer is. And what I'm intuitively doing behind the scenes is I'm trying to figure out a bottoms up market size for this business. What I mean by bottoms up market size is that mathematical equation. I'm going to keep saying again and again. X times Y equals Z. Who's your customer? How many potential customers there are? Multiplied by your revenue model equals a market size. A top-down market size is very lazy. And I think entrepreneurs do it a lot. And this is derived from a very simple Google search. Top-down market size is you Googling how large is, I'll just keep taking media as an example. How large is the media market? I could Google that and it's probably going to say close to $1 trillion or hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. Not a small number. Actually, it's a very large number, right? But figuring out from that individual or that business owner, who exactly is your customer, your subset of the market? And so, a couple of questions can kind of get to the heart of whether or not they can articulate and explain who the specific customer is, why they buy, and how much that individual is charging. And, in the VC space, I see a lot of opportunities. I know if you're in the education space, I know how many schools there are. I know how many, if you're in the B2B space, I see enough of this. I know how many businesses are in the US. Like, I know these numbers because they're pretty public and well known. Like, I can do quick math and say, okay, well, I know there's 26,000 schools in higher ed in the US. I know how many SMBs are in the US. I know how many Fortune 500 companies there are because it's in the name. There's 500.
That's so funny when people, it is cute when they get that wrong.
Yeah, but it's like I know how many there are. And if you're telling me, hey, I know how many people are in the US, there's 330 million people in the US. If you're saying, okay, I know how many people are in Wisconsin, I know how many people are in different states, like I know population. So if you're saying, hey, this is my customer and this is how much we charge, like I know if you're going to charge everybody in the US $1 to use some app, I know that market size. That's 330 million times $1 a year. That equals $330 million. Like that's that market size. I can do that math, but like what I'm really interested in is what's that subset of customers you have and how well you can articulate that. And based on your ability to articulate that really indicates how sharp your pencil is and how maybe full of it or legitimate you might be in making the claim of your market.
Yeah. How legitimate you are. I think that's huge. I do want to point out, because we had this conversation in the cohort, people were asking, why am I doing this customer research, right? And how deep do I have to go? And this is part of it, right? Like if your subset of the media industry is in fact newspapers that serve a population of 60,000, then you can really make your marketing easier on top of know exactly how big your business can or should grow. And then you can start pairing that with a service or a product, and then maybe you grow past that once you do that. So I like that. Okay, so you mentioned if you're looking for investment or if you are like a local or a lifestyle type business, right? Either way, you have to know it. But you as a investor by trade at this point, you can say that now. You're an investor by trade.
This truth.
So cool. How small is too small to be looking for investment market size wise?
Yeah, it's a great question. A good rule of thumb for venture capital investment is that your total addressable market. So we talk about TAM, SAM, SOM.
I think we have a slide on that.
We do have a slide on that, and you're welcome to pull it up.
I think that'll be helpful.
We talk about TAM, SAM, SOM. So I think maybe the next slide.
Come on. There we go.
TAM, SAM, SOM. 3-letter acronyms. We all love those. So
yeah.
TAM is your total addressable market. That's the big thing. The SAM is your serviceable attainable market, or serviceable addressable market, sorry. And that's more of the where you really play, like who your core customer is and what you can realistically get. Then the SOM is a subset of that, and that's kind of your beachhead, your main, going to market. This is where we're really focused. And from an investor standpoint, a good rule of thumb is that the TAM is greater than $1 billion.
Okay.
As a subset of that, the SAM is usually at some percentage of the TAM, and the SOM is a percentage of the SAM. Rough math on this, I like to say the SOM is 5 to 10% of the SAM. It should be at least, I like to say $500 million or more. 500 million to $1 billion is more. Again, the TAM should be more than $1 billion. So the SOM being about 5 to 10% of that means I think if your beachhead market is less than 25 million, that is harder to find venture capital investors. That doesn't mean you can't find other types of investors, growth equity, angel investors, debt investors. Everybody has a different math. But for a VC fund, I think to really lean in, your beachhead should be at least $25 to $50 million. And again, that being 5 to 10% of your SAM, and your SAM being a smaller percentage of the total addressable market.
I like that. That's helpful. And I will say, I mean, at least for a lot of the businesses that I work with and the ones that are going through idea to first dollar aren't necessarily looking for venture capital, but it is helpful as you grow if that might be even an option for you, and also just the math.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're building a venture-backed company or pursuing that, or you're doing a lifestyle company, your market size is the upper limit for essentially how much you can make. We have monopoly laws or antitrust law. Like, as a system, you're never going to hit your total addressable market size. But it is also the upper limit for how much you can make. The larger your market size, if you're a lifestyle business, the more potential you can earn. I think that begs the question, how much is enough? What's success look like to you? Everybody has a different answer to that. But I think if I were running a lifestyle business, which I kind of am, like I invest in startups, but like my fund is, and the company that I've built that invests in companies, we're a small team. It really kind of is a lifestyle business. Like I'm not a venture backable business, which is ironic. The reality inside of that is like, shoot, like if I made more than $125,000 a year, like my bills are paid in spades and I'm happy. To other people, like that's a $60,000 number. To other people, that's a $500,000 number. To others, it's I want to make multiple millions of dollars. There's no right or wrong. So like for your lifestyle business, if that's what you're doing, the market size indicates how much your potential earnings could be. Mm-hmm. And it's up to you to figure out what's enough and what you want from that.
I like that. It's true. I'll be saying the same thing. I literally said last week, I think it was, how much would you do this for? Right? Because that answers so much question for you. Like, would I actually do this for $25? Or would I have to charge $400 to make it worth my time, your time, whatever, to even cover my bills? Yeah. Because a lot of times I feel like I talk to business owners and they haven't looked at their market size. So they don't know how many people they could actually serve. So they don't know how much money they could actually make. But then secondarily, they haven't looked internally and go, okay, no, I know that I have to make at least $75,000 a year to feed my family or pay my bills. And then they're looking at me like, my business is not making enough money. And I go, I don't know what to do with you. Yeah. Right.
But one of the most beautiful things as an entrepreneur is when maybe that hobby or that moonlighting business that you're building hits that tipping point where, hey, we can give it a go and I can actually sustain my lifestyle from this. I mean, that's such a beautiful thing.
I know, it's so much fun. Mm-hmm. It really does give you the warm fuzzies as somebody that's done it. Mm-hmm. I mean, here I sit in my office going, it's cute. I like it here. So if you are watching and you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. We'll see them and we'll pull them up because I have plenty of questions written in by people and or by me. But if you have something specific about something that Mason is saying, you have an expert right here at your fingertips. So you might as well use it. Right. And even if you're watching the replay of this, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I'll forward it to him. He'll be watching it and he'll respond. He's got all these social medias. I can guarantee it.
I didn't sign up for that, but I guess I will.
He did. He did. He's such a nice guy. He'll answer your question.
And I also, I do plenty of office hours. I wanted to just be pretty obvious. I kind of found when I launched the venture capital fund, people get so intimidated because like, I'm pitching this investor, and it's like, I don't know. Like, I just live down the street. Like, I'm happy to help and be a resource for folks. And, frankly, I talk to entrepreneurs months, if not years, before they're actually ready for an investment. So I'm always doing office hours. I'd love to meet with you, learn more about your company, provide any insight that I can, and be a resource. I want to see more companies grow. I really want to see more companies grow and stay here. Do that in Janesville and Rock County and Wisconsin. And so if I can be helpful, I will.
He is helpful. I call him every now and then. Actually, you were one of the calls I made before I started BRP. Yeah, you were. And I was like, I need a second set of eyes on this because I knew what my market size was. I knew there was a need. I knew exactly who I was serving, but like, am I stupid for doing this? And here we are. He gets to be the first BRP Masterclass. So when we start talking about, actually, we're talking about market size, right? One of the things that I hear over and over again, I actually just heard it from the cohort, and I've heard it for years throughout my time as an entrepreneur, is it's already saturated. There's so many people in this market. So how do you factor in, or how do you think competition, other businesses, other people doing relatively the same thing or answering the same problem, how do you do that into market size?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. Competition is like a double-edged sword. On one hand, the fact that there is competition implies that customers are willing to pay. Like, it validates this market exists. On the other hand, it's also a risk factor, right? How do you outcompete? I'm of the belief that entrepreneurs are competitive people, and the competition breeds champions. That's my belief. At the same point, if I were to create a list of the top 100 things that's going to put you out of business, I would put competition probably like in the 50s to 70s. Like, I don't think it's the reason your company is not going to get started. It's not the reason your company's going to take off or go out of business, most likely. Competition is a double-edged sword. The reality, and if you think of markets,
ready.
Actually,
pull it up.
I think it's like the third or fourth slide. That one. If you think of markets as who's your customer, where's your customer, and why do they buy, that last one's really important to think about your competition. And frankly, all of them are, right? Like, there might be direct competitors that do exactly what you're doing, but they're doing it in a different geography. Mm-hmm. I actually started my career at a house painting business. There were plenty of other house painters. Yeah. The reason we won is, we went door to door. Yeah.
Different sales process. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a different sales. We went door to door. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, I noticed there was peeling paint on your soffits. Like, do you want a quote? We win a lot of business that way. Other people, hey, like, we put up billboards and flyers and signs. They had a different sales process. That's what was ours. There's also painters in other geographies that we just weren't.
We're competition.
They're absolutely house painters, but we're not coming up against them. And the same is true for our lawyers. A lot of service providers, landscapers, marketing agencies, etc. They have they might be direct competitors, but they're in different areas. Now, then you have indirect competitors that kind of smell like you, they kind of seem like you. Maybe they're targeting the same customer, but they're going at it in a completely different way. And that's why this last part's so important. Why does the customer buy? What do you do differently from them? Competition is a beautiful thing because it allows people to pick what solution makes sense for their problem. And there are solutions that work better for certain problems than others. When I had a house painting business, I didn't do commercial. I just did residential. Commercial is a whole different beast. There's more stakeholders. There's bigger projects that you need bigger crews. You need different capital resources to get the amount of, for painting. Like, house paint was 15 gallons to paint a house. Commercial project could be 500 gallons. Like, it's a whole different process. So, like, we were a different option. And we were way cheaper. Like, we weren't unionized because we weren't doing commercial projects. So It's like we were a different way. And that's a very easy, simple way to think about it. But for a lot of products being built, they saw a gap in the market where competitors weren't necessarily catering to this use case as well. So somebody started this to cater to that. So competition is a double-edged sword. Having it's a good thing, but it's also something you want to be mindful of and understand how you're positioned inside the market and what problem you're ultimately solving better than others. you can be outcompeted in certain areas. It's important to be humble enough to say, hey, this competitor here, they're really good at XYZ, but they kind of missed the boat on ABC. And so we cater to that and we can outcompete them here, but the customer is looking for something over here. We just can't do that as well as they can. And that's a totally humble, and frankly, to go to a potential customer and say that, you'll get nothing but mad respect, and they'll be a huge advocate if you talk them out of your business because you know you can't service them well. Anyways, that's just a little bit about competition as it relates to market.
No, I love it. I am sharing it a few times, but share this talk a few times for everyone that's watching. But anyway, that being said, we got a question. So I'm going to read this to you so you know what this question is. And this is from Nina, one of the businesses that is in the Idea First Dollar program.
Excellent. Hi, Nina.
She is running a product-based company out of Mequon, Wisconsin.
Hey, Nina.
But she runs a product-based company out of Mequon, Wisconsin for mothers. But the person that actually asked the question, my bad, is Ember and Edge. This is Josh, also in the program.
Hey, Josh.
He's here in Beloit with us.
Excellent.
He has a laser engraving business.
Sweet.
Free shout out that does these cool ass coasters, and he put my logo on it.
Oh, sweet.
Because he laser engraved it. Anyway, so he has a question. If my immediate market is Beloit and the surrounding region, essentially anyone looking for personalized laser engraving products, representing thousands of potential local customers, and as I build brand awareness and online presence, my addressable market expands into the national type level.
Totally.
And it's estimated in the billions. Does that sound realistic and like a solid market opportunity? Because you could ship these literally anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, the reality is markets can be really large. And I say this a lot.
I'd be cussing.
Okay. But I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. If they're watching this in the future, I don't want them to be like, but I'm going to swear. Nobody gives a shit
Your
about
neighbor
your
Jocelyn
idea.
does for sure. So just
Fair enough. So the reality is nobody gives a shit about your idea. They care about how you execute it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're coming across a business like what you just described, hey, we can laser engrave, there's a lot of alternatives there. In Beloit, you have several other local businesses with more established brands that are also doing awards, they're doing corporate swag. So being able to execute and find distribution is more of a limiting factor there than the market size. The fact that the market size is really big is awesome. I think it can be very hard to execute in a crowded yet big market unless you focus and niche even further inside of that. You know, there's an old saying, how do you boil the ocean? One cup at a time.
That one. That was a good one.
Actually, I don't even think that's the phrase. I might have made that up. I think the phrase, how do you...
Mason original. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, I think they say don't boil the ocean. I meant to say, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
No, I like boil the ocean, one cup at a time.
Well, perfect. We'll go for Nick. That's the clip for this. But the reality is that market's an elephant. You're going to have to really segment inside of that and target your outreach around something very special inside of that to competition, like find the gap that you can outcompete people in or come across the market slightly different, whether that's price, whether that's revenue model, whether that's your distribution strategy, whether that's the actual product. You're going to have to really hustle and figure out what that is. And you're absolutely right. You can do this online. You can ship this anywhere. That's not a problem at all. There's plenty of tools to do that today. But the sales and execution strategy there is the bigger risk factor that I would see.
Okay, so I guess to kind of finish this, we sat down and talked 2 weeks ago, and I kind of said the same thing. I said, because he was like, I'm able to laser engrave just about anything. And then, of course, my partner, Devin, was like, can you laser engrave a gun? And I was like, no, different kind of laser engraving. He's close, though. He's going to get one. So that being said, we talked about bringing it down and being a super easy to duplicate product and super easy to find customer. So we talked about doing B2B specifically to hotels and like Visit Beloit type situations that you can put the logo of the hotel on it or the city crest or whatever it is that the city has. That would be his first addressable market to help him kind of.
The reality is, like, whether it's this business or another, the reality is like, you're not getting married to anything. Like, just start, just get some revenue, like figure out, do little experiments and see, okay, well, can I go to custom hotels or places that have a brand that care a lot about their brand presence or consistency throughout? Start there and see if you can like build a client base there. And if not, like spend 2-3 weeks on it, see if you can get 2-3 clients, or some engagement, like see if you can get meetings at least, see if the marketing, the reach out is working. And then, hey, if that doesn't work, like, all right, like let's try this with this customer set and just start to build mini experiments to find it. Like you're only going to be better off for doing it. The worst thing is you're going to find out,
Not for me.
yeah, not for me, or hey, I found out this isn't the way to go about it. I still think that's a blessing.
I do too.
And so, yeah, I mean, go do it. But again, nobody gives a shit about your ideas. Just be blunt. They care about how you execute. And if you can out execute your competitors, that's how champions are made.
I don't disagree. We'd be saying progress over perfection.
100%.
Progress.
And you can always change down the road. Like, hey, we started here, we built a little business, we realized it wasn't scalable, but through this we learned this, and now we're scaling here. Go do it.
Yep. Look, we agree. So if you have any more questions, now's the time to ask it. Because also, I will just read it to you because it's funny. I introduced Nina and let her in line, and she goes, laser and kips, essentially the same thing. They can do a lot of damage.
So, it's true.
So she made me giggle. For founder, what is one way that founders consistently underestimate their market? Right? Their addressable market. Their potential.
It's a really interesting question. I can probably count on one hand, if not 0 fingers, on how many times I've had a founder underestimate the size of their market. I would say the opposite is more true. Founders overestimate the size of the market. And again, that's because they do a top-down approach. They Google how big's my market, and they're very overconfident in the size of it relative to who their customer is or how much they charge from a bottoms-up perspective. I do think one thing they underestimate a lot, however, is actually more of the competition. Yeah. Not saying, hey, I don't have competition is an obvious red flag to every investor. Frankly, anybody who's thought about a business for 2 seconds says, no, you do have competition. That might not be a direct competitor, but a lot of times the competition is the status quo. Who's Airbnb's competition? Is it VRBO? No. Who's the hotels? That's not a direct competitor, but like, where does the money go if it doesn't go to you? Or is it apathy? We're just not going to buy it. Maybe apathy is, hey, we use a spreadsheet. We don't need this software. So like the spreadsheet, yeah, sure. There's no competition. There's no company doing exactly this, but they are doing it somehow. They're just using a different process that works better for them or that they think works better for them. So I don't think founders typically underestimate or understate the size of their market, but I do think they consistently understate the status quo as a competitor.
I like that. Okay, this is not exactly marketized, but it's fun because you talk to entrepreneurs and startups and small businesses all the time. What is your favorite hack to go find those competitors? Just go and be nosy and stalkerish on the internet.
I mean, there's plenty of online tools. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn stalking. And when I look at competitors or think about the market, I'll look at who I think their competitors' LinkedIn pages are, see how many employees there are, small employees in a small company. You can use company. I'm in more of the software world, and so I use things like Crunchbase, where I can see how much funding a company's received. But I think my biggest hack is I like to look at LinkedIn and see how many people work there. I like to see what jobs they might be hiring for, because that kind of indicates how that company might be thinking about growth, or that competitor might be thinking about growth. I like to see if there's layoffs. That can always be kind of an interesting sign of how well that competitor is doing. Another pretty nosy way, is it ethical? Does it happen all the time? Absolutely. And that's signing up for a competitor, sign up for a demo, booking a conversation.
I do that all the time.
Using a personal email or a fake email or something like that, not your company email. Go undercover, get a proposal, get pricing, learn more about them, see how they position themselves. Say, hey, I came across this company. I was thinking about using them. How do you guys compare? See if they've heard of you or how they might position themselves by comparison. I think those are great.
I like those. I like the LinkedIn, and I 100% do sign up for other companies' emails lists. I don't tend to do the whole demo thing because I get annoyed. It's too much time on my calendar. I love to see an email that comes through just to see what they're talking about, why they're talking about. Maybe it's spring and they're an irrigation company and they're talking about it's time to unwinterize, time to turn them things back on. Do they work? That kind of thing. So that's really nice. Okay. Yeah. All right, last question. And then if anybody else has any questions, now's your time to put them into the comments. We can see them. If you could give our founders, those watching, those in the Idea to First Dollar program, everybody, one framework to think about market size, like tomorrow morning, they sit down, they're going to spend an hour doing it, right? What would it be?
Don't get overwhelmed by it. Don't get married to it. Like, it's all okay. You're all learning. But the equation, I'm going to keep saying,
it's a good equation.
X times Y equals Z. How many customers are in your market? And be specific about that. If you're focused geographically, use the census data, pull census data. If you're focused geographically and by like demographics, meaning race, income level, family size, etc., like it's all census data. Be very specific about how many customers are. If you're targeting businesses, like find how many businesses are. Be very, if it's a specific type of manufacturer or legal providers that you're selling to, or education, or whatever that industry is, find out, use Google, figure out, and be specific how many customers there are. Then the second equation of this is how much are you going to charge them? You might have assumptions. Maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're still figuring that out. You might have assumptions around how much you're going to charge, or how much some companies, when they sell to companies, might have different pricing levels. Hey, if we're doing irrigation, what's the difference between a large yard and a small yard? How does that actually pricing average that you can use in this equation? You might have to make assumptions, but be educated in that and be able to justify and say, well, I think 50% of the yards we're going to do, or the projects we're going to do, are $400. 25% of it are going to be $500, and the other remainder is going to be $1,000. Whatever that is, get that basis, have your assumptions, and multiply that by the amount of customers you have. And the two levers you can pull. If you do your market, as you say, I think that's a little small. First of all, it's okay. You can start in small markets. But if you want to increase the market size, you have two levers. Increase the amount of customers you can sell to. There's multiple ways to do that. That might be by creating new product lines. That might be by expanding your geography. Those two come to mind. Like, you have those two levers. So number one, increase the amount of customers you sell to. Number two, increase your pricing or change your pricing. Maybe that's, hey, I'm just charging more. Maybe that's like, maybe I'm increasing the amount of services or products that I'm able to sell. But those are your two levers. And if you want a larger market size, figure out how to move those levers to create a larger market. But don't get stressed about it. Use Google, be specific and targeted. And the big thing is you can start small and expand it in the future. And small to me is less than 25 million. That might be huge to you. So be realistic and be okay with that. And if you want to expand it, figure out how to move those two levers.
So for those that are watching and maybe didn't catch the beginning, this is Mason Cook. He is the founder of Mastercraft Ventures. He elevates businesses through the lens of scalability and investment potential because he works in the venture capital space. This has been a Business Readiness Program Masterclass. Hopefully now you can go forth and do some Googling and some internet sleuthing and understand how big your opportunity really is, especially if you're here in Southern Wisconsin. We are here to help. You can reach out to me. You can put questions in the comments. I will for sure be emailing Mason if I don't know how to answer one. And you can always reach out to Mason. My email is mason@mastercraftvc.com. You can go to our website, Mastercraft VC, contact us. You can always email me at hello@mastercraftvc.com. Add me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to be connected to you. I'm more than happy to be a resource. And like Jocelyn said, go forth, use Google. I like to say, go forth and conquer. My deepest respect and appreciation to everybody who is taking that plunge into entrepreneurship, whether it's your first company, your fifth company, you've been in your business for 10 years or 10 minutes. We need more bees making honey. Everybody loves eating honey. Yeah. And in this analogy, entrepreneurs are the bees that make the honey. And we need more honey. We need more founders. We need more bees. And I have so much respect for anybody who's going down that path to start a company. If I can be a resource, I'm really dang happy to be able to do that. I like how you swore, then you didn't swear there at the end. I appreciate it.
My kids might watch this.
Your kids will watch it someday because someday
Yeah.
we're both going to be so famous that clearly we're going to go back to the archives and the Ingalls of
The what?
archive. We're just going to do archives, and
We
we're
can cut
going
that.
to. Right. When you watch this again, that part's gone. So welcome to the live. But you're going to go to the archives of YouTube
That's
and
right.
type in their dad's name and be like, "Wow, he was so young. His hair was still blonde." Awesome. All right. Well. Oh my gosh, Kane's got you on lock. He put your website right there. Look at
Oh,
that.
thanks, Kane.
There we go. Or no, that's your email. There you go. That's even better.
Perfect.
So if anyone needs to reach out to Mason or has a question or thinks maybe their business is backable by a VC firm, he's your guy. Awesome. Hope to see you guys soon. Have a good night.